Hello boys and girls, and welcome to lesson 5-7, more about writing fractions as decimals. For this lesson we're going to actually focus more on bar notation. We've learned so far that any number, like any 1/3, 2/3, or any number with a denominator of 9 will have a bar notation. Let's review that working on lesson 5-7, and we're also going to work on lesson 5-8, which is converting to decimals as percents. When you have a decimal and you want to convert it into a percent, you simply multiply it by 100. Okay, you move it 2 decimal places. You move the to the right. So you make the number bigger because you're multiplying by 100. Okay, let's go ahead and read this paragraph here together. Sometimes when you divide without using the calculator's fixed function to limit decimal places, you see that the display is filled with decimal digits. If the display were big enough, these digits would repeat forever. This is where we consider this a bar notation. Writing a bar over the digit or digits that repeat is a simple way to write these repeating decimals. Some calculators will display repeating decimals by rounding the last digits in the display. Study this table. For example, sometimes they will write, as you see here, 1/3, they'll write 0.3s, and then the very last one, they'll just make it a 4. They round it up. Or as you see here with 2/3, okay, 6 repeatedly, or just to stop, they round it to a 7. But what it really means is that it's going to continue to be 6, bar notation. Okay, as you can see here, we have 1/12 is 0.083, and the 3 is repeating itself. We only put the bar notation right over the 3, as you see right here. Okay. Over here it's just all 9s that repeat itself, and we finish with all 8, and we finish with the 9 or a bar notation. And over here you can see that it's 0.45, 45, 45, 45, 45, and it keeps repeating itself, so we will just simply write the 45. Now, notice that they wrote a 5 right here just to round it, just to stop the repetition. But really it's the 4, 5 continuously, forever, infinitively. Okay, so we only put the bar notation over the numbers that repeat themselves. Number 1. Explain how you would predict whether 2/9 or 3/9 is closer to 0.25 before using your calculator. Well, we've learned in class, boys and girls, that any number, okay, with the denominator as a 9 will be the numerator with the bar notation in the 10th place. Correct? So we know that 2/9 will translate to, as a decimal, 0.2 bar notation, and the 3/9, which is actually 1/3 if we simplify it, will be 0.3 bar notation. Okay, which one is actually closer to 0.25? Go ahead and copy your answer. You can explain it using words right on these 2 lines. Okay, you know that this is 0.2 bar notation, 0.3 bar notation. Which one is closer to 0.25? I know that 3/9 is equal to 0.3 bar notation, or 1/3. This is larger than 0.25, which we also call this 1/4, right? 0.25 is 1/4. 2/9 is 0.2 bar notation, which is close to 0.25. It's really very close. It's only off by about 2, right? 2 decimal something. This one's off by almost, it's 8.3 at least, okay? Or I should say 0.8. And this one's off by 0.2 something, okay? So clearly these two are closer to each other than this one. This is my explanation, boys and girls. You can go ahead and use it, or you can use your own. For questions 2 to 6, okay, we're going to continue with the same practice. Which is closer to 0.5? Well, we just decided that is 2/9 is closer, okay? Remember that any number over 9 is the numerator with the bar notation, Okay, so this one will be 0.2 bar notation. Okay, continuing on. Go ahead, boys and girls, and convert these decimals that you see here into, these fractions you see here into a decimal. And that will help you see if it's closer, which one is closer to the decimal that's given. Now let's go ahead and copy the next. Let's do number 6 as our key answer. Okay, let's divide. Let's do 3/8, and we know that 3/8, you can remember that you turn it into a decimal, right? And you can turn this into a 30 and divide. Okay, how many 8s are in close to 30? I would say 3, which gives me 24, and this is with 6. So that would be 60. 8 times 7, it's the closest to 60, is 56, gives me 4, and that turns to 40, and then 40 divided by 8 is 5. When I do the same with 7/16, I get the decimal 0.4375. So which one of the two is actually closer to 0.39? Oh, clearly 3/8 is, right? This is much closer to 0.39. Go ahead and write this one down as a key answer. Okay, now we're going to look at converting decimals and percents. Okay, so we just worked on converting fractions to decimals. And now we're going to take that decimal and convert it to a percent. Very simple, boys and girls. You take that decimal and you multiply it by 100 because you want it to be out of 100. Okay, so let's try that. It moves it 2 decimal places to the right, any numbers. Let's try it with the little chart that we have there where we have the fraction, we have the decimal, and the percent. Let's work with that. Okay, let me zoom it in right here. We're going to zoom in. Okay. And we notice that we have 18/35. When we divide 18 divided by 35, we get this long decimal number. But let's work with only up to the thousands. So we have 0.514. Okay? That's where we'll stop there. We're going to multiply this number, okay, by 100. When you multiply this by 100, what happens is this decimal place will move 1 and 2 places. Okay? It'll move right there so that it ends up being 51%. Okay? When do we know if it's going to be 52%? Well, you see how I've circled the 4? If this 4 were a 5 or higher, it would change the value of the 1 to a 2. Okay? But I would really, ideally, boys and girls, I would like you to include your percent, as we've done so here. Okay, as we've done so right here. But I also want you to include the decimals in the percent up to the 100th. So really, an ideal answer would look more like this. 51 decimal 4.3, and not just 51. I asked for 4.3 because we have the 4, and then I'm going to include the 2, but the 8 is higher than 5. So this 8, because I'm going to leave it out, I'm going to omit all of this, I should account for the fact that this 8 is close enough that it's going to make this 2 a 3, as we wrote it here. So really, the better answer is 51.43. So you're going to the 100th place. Okay, let's try one more. Let's work with the next one right here. We have 12/67, or we could also write it as 12 divided by 67, right? 12 divided by 67 is a really long decimal. It's going to be 0.179104 4, and it keeps going. 776. But I'm not going to continue to write all the numbers because I think I have enough to work with. Remember, I really only need the first two. That's going to be my percent, and this is going to be the decimal in my percent. So, as I said, take this number and multiply it by 100. All that will do is that it will take this decimal place here and move it 1 and 2 places, just like the zeros, 1, 2. Okay, so it will do this. It will take the decimal and it will jump 1 and 2 places, because we have 1 and 2 in the 100. It makes it bigger. So the number is now 17. 17. Decimal 91. Right? 91. Will my 1 change to a 2? No, because the 0 is less than 5. So it stays as 91%. Okay? Go ahead and try the next 3. Just as we've done these. Try these next 3. Okay? Feel free to use a calculator, boys and girls, so that you can divide 24 divided by 93, 13 divided by 24, 576 divided by 1,339. You'll get your decimal, multiply by 100, and you will have your percent to the 100th. Okay.